Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update. And as we know, last week the Spanish government announced the new tax on the super wealthy here in Spain, but it appears that Spain's super rich are moving to other countries to pay less tax. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise. And a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, let's get into the news, and as I just mentioned, last week Spain's central government announced the new tax on the super wealthy, and as we can see here, Spain is doubling down on taxing the rich with the so-called solidarity tax on 23,000 super wealthy people. Spain has introduced the second wealth tax amid soaring inflation, adding an extra 3.5% tax on top of wealth over $10 million. María Jesús Montero, the country's Minister of Finance and Public Administration, announced the so-called solidarity tax on Thursday. The government said that up to 23,000 people, or around 0.1% of all taxpayers, could have to pay the new tax, and that it could bring in as much as 1.5 billion euros or $1.46 billion. To avoid people being double taxed, the tax will only apply to the part of people's assets not already taxed by their autonomous community, the government said. People will be taxed at a rate of 1.7% on assets between 3 and 5 million euros, 2.1% on assets between 5 and 10 million euros, and 3.5% on assets of more than 10 million euros. So there we go, the so-called solidarity tax on wealthy people here in Spain that the government hopes will bring in around 1.5 billion euros to its coffers. But, and as I said at the beginning of the video, it seems that some of Spain's super wealthy are moving to other countries to pay less tax. As we can read here, the number of Spaniards declaring residence in Portugal rises 23% since 2018 to 15,550 people. At the same time that the Finance Minister, María Jesús Montero, finalised last Wednesday the plan to raise the tax burden on companies, the no less socialist Portuguese government of Antonio Costa delivered a document to its social partners with a very different approach. It is essential to invest in improving the competitiveness of the Portuguese business fabric, being important to improve the fiscal framework, strengthening incentives for companies to ensure, along with the creation of net employment, the revaluation of wages, says the Portuguese government in the document to which El Mundo has had access. There is a striking fact in the INE statistics. The number of Spaniards taking up residence in Portugal has risen by 23% since 2018, when Pedro Sánchez brought new wins to Moncloa. Cristóbal Montoro already saw in his last 4 years a 16% rise in the number of immigrants to Portuguese taxation, but when he left the Treasury there were 12,639. Now there are more than 15,500, and it's not an emigration to Germany or France, which has risen by 10% in the same period for better salaries, because in Portugal salaries are much lower. So there we go, fairly clear that rich Spaniards are moving to countries like Portugal to pay less tax. And as we saw since 2018 when Pedro Sánchez first came to power, numbers are up. So a completely different situation in Portugal when it comes to taxation. Now anyone who's been to a supermarket here in Spain recently knows that the price of food continues to rise, but an interesting fact has come to light, and it is that the price of 1 in 3 foods rises more in Spain than in Germany, France or Italy. In September, and for the first time since March 2021, Spain had a negative inflation differential with respect to the Eurozone. According to Eurostat's advanced data, prices are rising 0.7 points less than the average of these countries. And for the first time in many months, the harmonised indices of consumer prices of Germany 10.9% and Italy 9.5% are higher than ours 9.3%. And if we analyse in detail the evolution of the products that make up the shopping basket in these 4 countries, we can find many items whose price increases in Spain far exceed those of its European partners. So there we go, hard to believe but true that the price of some food products is rising faster in Spain than it is in France, Germany and Italy. Now the problem of gun violence here in Spain seems to be getting worse. We saw how in Catalonia over the last few weeks there has been a number of shootings, and now the problem has come to Madrid. As we can read here, second shooting death in less than 24 hours in a brawl in Madrid. Revenge has come in less than 24 hours. At around 6 o'clock on Monday morning, a 21-year-old Dominican was shot dead and 3 others were injured in a nightclub in the Madrid town of Fuenlabrada. The main hypothesis that the police are working on is that it was an immediate response to the murder of Borri, as they called a 19-year-old Venezuelan boy who died in the same way only a day earlier Ambassador in the neighbouring town of Alcorcón. Before dawn, 2 men arrived by car at the Caña Brava nightclub in Fuenlabrada and attacked several of those who were there. The assailants were carrying bladed weapons and pistols. The perpetrators were 2 men dressed in black with hoods and balaclavas. One carried a machete and the other a pistol, police sources said. So gangs and guns, as we can see there, a bad combination. Now the Midcat gas pipeline project, which, as we know, Germany and Spain hope to get off the ground, but a little bit difficult because France is not on board, is making headlines again today. And as we can read here, the German ambassador in Madrid, Spain and Germany will try to convince France of Midcat. When asked the question, as far as energy is concerned, is the Midcat project dead? And the response from the ambassador, Midcat is an issue that our own Chancellor Scholz has brought to the public eye, calling for the project to go ahead after being put on hold in 2019. But the situation before was very different from today. That's why the project is of interest to us now. Both governments, Germany and Spain, agree that we need and want more European networks for different forms of energy, be it gas or electricity. We have to move forward on this network, a project that connects Portugal and Spain with the north, which would be very important for us. What I know is that both governments are going to continue talking to the other member states involved to convince them that all this makes a lot of sense and to see how we can make it happen. We have to continue the dialogue and see what the positions of the countries involved are. So there we go, fairly clear from that interview with the German ambassador here in Madrid that both Germany and Spain are going to pressure France until they cave in and say yes to the project. We'll see. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Maestro. I mean, this is nothing strange in most towns in the US. Usually you can't buy alcohol here even at a bar past about 2 a.m. and sometimes the next day. Plus we have some dry towns. Yeah, Maestro, thanks for the comment, and obviously related to a shorts video that I put out the other day, Saturday I think it was, in which I mentioned the neighbourhood in Barcelona that has decided to ban alcohol between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. so that people don't get too drunk and run amok in that neighbourhood. We saw how a couple of weeks ago at another neighbourhood festival in Barcelona, things got out of control, people started rioting, shops were looted, and a couple of people were stabbed, and I think even one person died. And the Barcelona Town Hall thinks that banning the sale of alcohol in this neighbourhood will stop this type of problem. A couple of people in the comment section said that the neighbourhood in question, Sarrià, I think is the name of the neighbourhood, is completely different to the other neighbourhood where the riots took place, and that it is a very exclusive neighbourhood and people are not really expecting problems. So maybe the town hall is only catering to the high-end taxpayer. I don't know. One here from Sue. I thought groceries already stopped sales at 10 p.m. What Spain needs is higher alcohol prices, the so-called sin tax. Yeah, Sue, thanks for the comment, and you're absolutely right. There is already an alcohol ban in place from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. around the country. In fact, it's been in place for a long, long time. It's called the anti-botellón law. However, the problem is that when town festivals take place, a lot of these rules go out the window and local police turn a blind eye to the sale of alcohol, because as we know, everybody loves a party in Spain. One here from Ivan. It is important that Spain looks into replacing part of the tourist income with something less variable. Travelling like we have been doing is not sustainable. Yeah, Ivan, thanks for the comment, and related to something that we saw in yesterday's live stream about how European Union plans to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 could have a terrible effect on Spain's tourism industry, because basically a lot of people won't be able to fly because, simply put, they won't be able to afford it. And you're right, Spain probably needs to look for other types of industry to take that dependence off tourism. Travelling has become very affordable over the last few decades, and according to the experts, it has had a detrimental effect on the environment. And you only have to have a look at an app like Flight Radar 24 to realise just how many planes are in the sky at any given time. One here from Hattem. Is it 3,000 euros a month? Yeah, Hattem, thanks for the comment in regard to another short video that I put out yesterday about how some villages here in Spain are offering economic incentives to get people to move there. But to answer your question, it is not 3,000 euros a month. It's 3,000 euros if you move there, and if you have kids, in the village, they'll give you an extra 3,000 euros for each child. And finally, one here from Patricia. Stuart, La Plaza in Calasparra, Murcia is amazing. Beautiful food, perfect napery, and excellent service. Well worth a visit off the beaten track. Yeah, Patricia, thanks for the comment and thanks for telling us about that place down there in Murcia that, according to you, has fantastic food and service. And you're right, I am looking for places around Spain to try out the famous Menú del Día. I started a video series last week where I went to a restaurant, found a decent menu for 11 euros. A lot of people seem to be impressed by the amount of food that we got at that restaurant for 11 euros. So what we're going to do is head out to more restaurants and see if we can equal or get better deals for our money when it comes to the Menú del Día here in Spain. So if you know of any good places where they offer a good menu, let us know in the comment section below. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in that section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.